question number 1. At what time does the train depart Cape Town for Johannesburg? We need to go back in order to verify. And look at the question. Just concentrate on the question. Before you can attempt to answer any of the questions, read the question thoroughly. At what time does the train depart Cape Town for Johannesburg? When we look at our schedule, most of the learners will make a mistake of not going back to their time schedule and reading it thoroughly. It said from Cape Town to Johannesburg, not from Johannesburg to Cape Town. So meaning the answer will be 10 o'clock, which is this one. The second one. I hope you are doing this with me. You are going through this with me while I'm busy with it, so that we can get used to the kind of questions that are being asked. The second one, what is the fare for adults and kids below 10 years? The amount must be calculated for the return trip. Remember what we said about the content of mathematical literacy. When we talk about the content of mathematical literacy, we allow our learners to be assessed on mathematical and non-mathematical content. The reason this kind of questions, which are direct, and also look at the marks. You cannot allocate a mark less than 1, because just reading from the table, that is information, that is a skill. Going and look for something and finding it warrants it to be 2 marks and not 1. What is the fare for adults and kids? Remember, we talked about that. The fare for adults, it's how much? Somewhere there on top, but you need to go and look for it. There on top, the fare is 620 per adult. And for kids, 3 to 9, it's half price. So let us do our calculation. Let's go back to the question. What is the fare for adults and kids below 10 years? The amounts must be calculated for the return trip. Right. We have 620 for adults. That will be the fare. But remember, the question said for the return trip. And this 620 was only meant for the single trip. So in other words, what do we do now? We multiply by 2. So 620 multiplied by 2, that will be 0, that will be 4, and that will be 12. In other words, for an adult to go on this trip, the return trip, 1,240 must be paid. That is for the return trip. And for kids, remember it is said here, for kids is the half price. So to make life easier, you already counted the return amount for adults. So half of adults is for kids below 10 years. So you'll do the reverse of multiplication, which is 1,240 divided by 2. It will take us back to 620. This will be for kids below 10 years. Or for some of our learners who cannot detect this that it has already counted for the return trip, they will say half 620 multiplied by half. Remember, it was said that it's half price, ne? Which will give us how much? Divided by 2, 3, 1, 310. But this is for a single trip. If we have to calculate for the return trip, simply means that this 310 must be multiplied by 2, and then it gives us 620, which is the same as the one. This one was just direct, and this one, if you couldn't see that, this you can work from this one. That was question number 2. Let's go to question number 3 before we go on break, so that we can continue with the rest of the questions, expected questions. Let's finish with question number 3. Senior citizens pay a certain percentage of fare. 3.1. Name that percentage. You have to go back. This is just like reading a comprehension in English. It's stipulated there that senior citizens' fares are quoted approximately 25%. So when we talk about approximation, we talk about the estimations. So the answer to that will be the approximate of 25%. That's how much the senior citizens will pay. That is 3.1. 3.2, calculate now the amount paid by senior citizens. Remember, it was said that they paid 25% of the adult fare. Let's do that calculation first. Then we'll go to break after this calculation. It's 25%, even if it said approximately. I said when we talk about time, we talk about the estimation. Now 25% of 620. That will simply mean that will be 25% multiplied by 620. Then you can use your calculator, it's because of time, or you can just calculate it manually. Let's look. Never mind the calculator, as long as it gives you the correct answer. 620 multiplied by 25%. It gives us how much? 155 rand. That is the percentage, 25% of 155. But let us understand what the question is saying. The question, it says, how much are the senior citizens going to pay for their trip? It doesn't end here. It doesn't end here. Meaning you have to calculate the price of the senior citizens. But you have already started calculating the 25% of 620. Meaning that the next step will be 620 subtract 155, which will give you the exact fair price of the senior citizens. 620 subtract 155. So the senior citizens are paying 465. So if your dad or your mom or your grandma is on pension or is a senior citizen from the age of 60 and above, it means you can go and take a journey with them because you're going to pay lesser than what you're going to pay for. So let's go on a break. We'll come back and continue with our questions.